All right. Hi, everyone. Hopefully, all of you guys can hear me. My name is Kai, and I am from Reallusion. I'm going to be hosting this webinar for you guys. We're going to be walking through a demo of importing your Daz and Poser characters and some Renderosity content into Character Creator 3 and modifying it and basically attaching it to characters and all that fun stuff. So I'm joined by a bunch of people from the Renderosity community today. We have a few people with us. Today we have Chuck, otherwise known as Nerd3D Taylor. He's a Poser user since '98. I'm gonna get everyone to introduce themselves in just a moment here. But we do also have Jennifer here as well as Denise. So what I'm gonna do here is we're gonna be basically going through a really quick introduction. I'm gonna be doing a demo myself, and then we're gonna have a Q&A session at the end of this webinar. So if you guys have any questions that you want answered throughout this webinar, please put that in the Q&A section of your GoToWebinar panel, and we'll answer that probably the last 10-15 minutes of the webinar here. We'll leave some time for Q&A. So any questions that pop up, leave it in there, and we'll answer those questions at the end of the demo. You can ask questions of myself, Chuck, or Denise, or Jennifer. You can ask questions of all of us. Anything Poser, Renderosity related, you can ask them, and I'll answer anything Reallusion related as well. We are live broadcasting this webinar on YouTube and Facebook, I do believe, and we are recording it. So if you, if there's anything that goes too fast, we can, we'll be emailing you a video link later on where you can review that on your own time. In addition, we have a chat window. We do have a moderator in the chat window, so anything that pops up, any technical issues or something, or anything you want to say, just put it in the chat window. Please don't abuse the chat window, but the Q&A window there, the Q&A section is the one we're going to be answering the questions from at the end of the webinar. Okay, so I think that about covers it. I guess what I'll do now is I'll try and get our participants, our panelists, to introduce themselves. I see we have Chuck here on the line, so maybe Charles or Chuck, if you wanted to unmute yourself and just give yourself a brief introduction, we can go from there.
Thank you. Yeah, I got you.
Awesome.
I'm Chuck Taylor, known as Nerd3D. I've been with Poser since about 1998, creating content ever since then. I was product manager for Poser for version 10 and 11. So I kind of know my way around Poser. Not so much the character creator, but that's kind of why I'm here. I need to learn too. So back to you.
Right on. Thanks, Chuck. Yes, we also have Jennifer and Denise with us. I guess they're still attendees right now, but any questions for them? Jennifer is the marketplace manager of Renderosity. You can feel free to ask her as well. She's been with Poser since '03 and '04. Started out as a tester way back in the day, and Denise is a veteran as well of the Poser community and works for Smith Micro and has been basically doing content creation for around 20 years or so. So these guys, they know their stuff. Any questions you can feel free to ask them. Any questions that pop up, put it in the Q&A window, and I'll get to it at the end of the webinar. Okay, but let's go ahead and start my demo part now that we've had that brief introduction here. So on the screen, what you should be seeing right now is a female character in the Unreal environment. I just kind of wanted to show this to you guys because this is what we're going to be basically ending up with, is this sort of character. I'm just going to quickly simulate it for you. Apologies if the sound of the waterfall is loud there. But this is the character that we're going to be basically creating from Victoria 4 in Poser and then importing into the character creator environment. We're not going to talk about Unreal and all that stuff in this webinar because we simply don't have time for all that stuff. But you can feel free to ask me any questions you might have, and we'll go from there. Okay, so I just wanted to quickly show you that cool stuff in the animation of our character in Unreal. Around there. Okay, so the first thing is some clothing to our character in the Poser environment here, and then we're going to import that character fully clothed. We're going to bake all the textures from that character and bring her into Unreal. And the second thing we're going to do is we're going to basically just bring in a character, Michael 4, excuse me, from the Daz environment. Just going to export it as an FBX. And then we're going to, he's just going to be basically nude with his little trunk shorts on. And we'll import him into Character Creator and apply all the different skin textures and morphs and all that stuff. We're going to modify him completely so he's unrecognizable, and just kind of showing you what we can do in Character Creator 3 to modify and customize a character very briefly. Okay, so first things first, we're going to go ahead and import or export a clothed character from Poser and import into Character Creator 3. So we have Andy on the screen right now. We don't need Andy, so we'll just delete him on the screen. Get out of here, Andy. And we're going to bring in Victoria 4. Okay, so you guys should be familiar with Victoria 4. Just bring in her model. And we're going to apply a bunch of clothing to Victoria 4 when she's in the screen here. Okay, so the clothing we're going to apply to Victoria 4 is from Renderosity. This is all this stuff here, this Fury for V4, A4, and G4 characters by our publishing. Rhiannon, okay, you can see all this stuff here. I'll put this URL into the chat window for you guys. Okay, so you can check it out on your own time if you want. All right, just gonna paste that in the chat window and send it to all panelists. So you guys should all be able to see that link there. Okay, so you can go ahead and check that out on your own time. We're gonna be basically importing in most of this character's equipment with our import. Okay, so let's go back to character, or rather Poser first. And let's apply that content to our character. So up here in the Fury folder, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to shift select everything except for the boots. Okay, so we have these boots here. We're going to export those boots separately as OBJ files a little bit later on. But let's go ahead and shift select everything. And I'm going to click and drag it onto my character, make sure it says a yellow thing pops up at the top, add and conform to Victoria 4. And what it's going to do is it's going to basically apply all those items to Victoria 4 here, and conform them to her body. So a really quick and cool feature. That's the fastest way to kind of get all this stuff on your character there. And you can see there we have Victoria 4 with all the armor. We can get rid of the purple bra and underwear a little bit later on, but this is what we're going to work with. We're also going to throw some hair on there as well. So for hair, under our publishing, we're going to go to Carolina Hair here. And we're going to apply the Victoria Hair 4 to Victoria here as well. All right, so we're going to import in the character with the hair and everything as well. All right, there you go. We're not going to apply the boots just yet because we're going to, like I mentioned, apply the boots separately as OBJ files. Okay, so once we've done this, there's a couple things I want to do with the materials here. I want to go over here to Material tab, and I want to select my character's eyelashes. Let's zoom in really quick here. And pan up a little bit, so we can take a look at the character's face there. So what I want to do is make sure we select the character, Victoria 4, and I'm going to select her eyelashes here. And you can see we have this transparency map here. I can just go ahead and click on that and show and explore. And what I want to do is I want to basically copy and paste this a file right here, this JPEG. I'm just going to copy it. I'm going to paste it into my working folder here. So we're going to create a working folder, this Renderosity webinar folder. I'm just going to paste it into here. Okay, and we'll just kind of make that larger so you can kind of see the image. Okay, so this is the eyelash image that we're going to be using. Let's go ahead and back into Poser now. Go ahead and press OK, cancel for that. We don't need that. And another thing we want to do is modify the torso material to get that purple stuff off there as well. So we have to go over here to skin torso, and we're just going to go ahead and browse and replace the purple torso there with a nude torso, because it looks kind of weird to have this purple kind of bra underneath the armor there. And we also want to go to the nipple material, and we're going to do the same thing for that one. Okay, just replace it with the diffuse map, the V4 simple diffuse map. Okay, so if I'm going too fast, feel free to ask in the Q&A section. We're just going to basically be replacing these materials really quick. And then there's also I believe the skin or hip, skin hip. This is the one. And we need to replace this one as well. All right, so we're going to browse and replace that as well. Okay, so all the torso stuff has been replaced. That's basically all we got to do for now. And what we're going to do next is export the character into the FBX format. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. File, and let's go into Poser first. Okay, now in Poser, you don't really have to add a T-pose to your character. I'm going to show you Daz in a moment where we will do that. Okay, but let's go ahead and file and export. Now we're going to choose the good old FBX here and single frame. Okay, now we don't want to export the camera, of course. We're just going to export the character. So let's just twirl all these up here. We'll just see exactly what we're exporting. Okay, and you can see we're exporting the left thigh armor, right fore armor, Carolina hair, all this stuff that's X'd out here. We're going to be exporting all that stuff. Okay, and just go ahead and press OK. Now here, nothing too complicated in the export settings here. Just want to make sure you bake all morphs, and invert transparency map is fine. I'm going to be doing this purposely because we're going to be replacing the eyelash map later on. And make sure you include geometry. FBX 2014. Okay, this is very important. The FBX format version binary. Okay, and then just go ahead and press OK. And once we've done that, it should pop up with a Explorer window. And that should pop up momentarily. There we go. Okay. So I just have to go to the same working folder here. Webinar and Renderosity. Let's just call it Warrior Princess.fbx. Okay. And just save that as an FBX into the Webinar Renderosity folder. Okay, so that's basically all you have to do to export the character from Daz. So this character is completely exported from Daz. What we're going to do next is we're going to import that character into Character Creator 3, and we're going to basically bake all the textures, which is going to take a while. So while we're baking those textures, we're going to import in the boots, or we're going to export the boots rather, and we're going to export Michael from Michael 4 from Daz at the same time. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that first in Character Creator. So Character Creator contains a really cool transformer tool up here, okay? Not like the transformable robots, but it transforms Daz characters into Character Creator 3 characters. And let's go to that same other folder that I had. Okay, and Warrior Princess right there, there's our FBX file. We're just gonna go ahead and open this. Okay, now for the first run through, we're going to select Advanced, because if you want to bake your Daz or your character textures, your Daz or your Poser character textures, you need to choose Advanced. Okay, this is where you where it allows you to bake the textures and also to create an INI file. And an INI file is basically a file that allows you to load a character in a particular way. It'll automatically load specific texture maps. And we'll talk about that in just a moment here. Okay, but the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure you bake the body texture. Okay, and we're going to change our max texture size to 2048. Now, here we have an option to generate profile. So we're going to generate a profile, and this is an INI file. I'm going to go ahead and create a new one here in the same webinar folder. We're going to call this Warrior Princess. Okay, just to keep things consistent. And that saves as an INI file there, okay? So the INI file contains all the import information, basically, for your character. And you import it into Character Creator 3. And there goes my sales phone. Let's shut that off for now. Sorry about that. And yeah, okay, INI file. Go ahead and save that to the same folder there. And what we want to do is we want to make sure we edit that INI file before we continue. Okay, so let's go into our Explorer window. And let's go to this same folder here. So here you see the Warrior Princess.ini. We have the lashes all prepared. And we have the texture folder, okay? And you can see all the textures here for the character. And we also have this .fbm folder that contains the FBX textures here, okay? Currently, they're the same thing. But let's go ahead and edit the INI file first. We're going to right-click it and open it with, WordPad, Notepad, whatever program you're using to edit code. and you can see a bunch of code pops up. It looks pretty complicated, but to be honest, we're just going to be doing one simple thing here, and that is replacing the texture map. So you can see here, it'll say, you know, like bump map equals, for example, this is the skin on the hip. It doesn't have a bump map, okay? So there's no bump map. And basically diffuse, it's just using the embedded texture, which is going to automatically look in that texture folder that comes with the FBX file there. Okay, so I showed you the texture folder. When it says use embed texture, it's just going to automatically find those textures. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to go back into the Explore folder. We're going to take our lashes here. We're going to rename the file lashes. Okay, just to keep things simple. And this is our transparency map for our character's eyelashes. And we're going to basically just go ahead and take this into our textures folder here. Okay. And in the textures folder, you can see this is the lash one that exported with FBX. And you can see it's basically inverted from our other lashes. Where's the other lashes file here? Why can't I see it? I believe I did. Oh, there it is. Okay, lashes up here. Okay, so you can see these two are basically inverted. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to make sure that you have this one, lashes. Obviously, we want the white part to be shown and the black part not to be shown in an opacity map. So we renamed it lashes, and then in the Word file here, or the INI file rather, we're going to go ahead and find the eyelashes. So you can see up here, every section has a name, skin, hand right here, for example, skin, leg down here. We need to find the one that says eyelashes. So you can just go Control F and search for lashes actually. Okay, and find next, or maybe eye. Okay, there you go, eyelash. Okay, so this is the one right here. Control F to do that, obviously. And what you want to do is, you can see for opacity, it says use embed texture. Now, we don't want to use that embedded texture because we kind of inverted it, and obviously it's not going to have the correct results. It's going to have like the parts where we don't want, it'll just be messed up anyways. Okay, so what we're going to do is, for here, we're just going to change, we're going to delete all this, and we're just going to enter in, whoops, let's just do that one by one here. And we're just going to call this lashes.jpg, okay? Because that's the file that we saved, lashes.jpg. It is a JPG file, you just have to trust me on this one. And then we'll just go ahead and save it. And that's all we have to do in the INI file, okay? So once we use this INI file for our import, it's always going to look for a file called lashes.jpg, which is this one right here, okay? And it's always gonna load that in for the opacity texture on the eyelashes, okay? That's what the INI is useful for. So every time you load in a character and you use that profile, it can be for any character, it's always going to look for that specific file name, okay? Okay, hopefully that's clear as mud. Let's continue on, okay? And the texture folder, we obviously need to define the texture folder here as well. So let's go ahead and into there, and we're going to define the texture folder. Same folder, okay, webinar Renderosity, and textures, okay? So make sure we select that folder. And for all of the armor and stuff here, the shield armor, okay, we're just going to keep everything as cloth. The hair, we need to change the hair to hair, obviously, okay? And for the left shield armor, or left shoulder armor, we're going to define this as an accessory, okay? Just to make it different from the others, and I'll show you the difference as we get into Character Creator. Okay, and I'm just going to change the maximum texture size to 2048 for everything here. I'm not sure if we need to, but we'll just do that anyways for all of them. Okay, and from that point on, we just got to go ahead and press OK. So what it's going to do now is it's going to bake the textures and everything, and it's going to import that Victoria 4 character fully clothed into Character Creator with the appropriate textures. That takes a few minutes. What I'm going to do while we're doing that is I'm going to export the boots, okay, from Poser. So in Poser, let's just go ahead and go down to our character's boots here. Whoops, there we go. I'm just going to go ahead and apply the same boots. So let's go to Fury, back to Fury here, and apply that shin. It's called shin armor. And just click and drag it onto the character, and we should be good to go. There we go. Let's make sure we can actually zoom in on the boots there a little bit. Okay, so there you go. There's our boots. So what we're going to do is we're going to export these as separate OBJ files. Okay. So make sure we have the boot selected here. Okay. That doesn't really matter if you're a shin armor, and go to File and Export, and we're going to export Wavefront OBJ this time. Okay. Single frame. Okay. And here we just need to, of course, deselect everything except for that shin armor. So let's just go ahead and do the same thing, twirl all these up. And the shin armor is the only thing we're going to export. So just go ahead and deselect everything else. Boom, 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 there we go. And the shin armor is the only thing we're exporting. Okay. And go ahead and select OK. Now here we're going to weld the body parts. Okay. Include the body part names in the polygon group. We also want to copy the textures to the destination folder. That's fine. And for the OBJ export, we also want to preserve existing material names. And the scale percentage here is very important, okay? This can be different for different types of accessories and clothing I've found. It really depends. But for these particular boots, I found that we need to maybe scale them up to about 50,000 times, okay? The original size, and go ahead and press OK. So we're going to go ahead and in this same folder here, we're going to create a new folder called OBJ, okay? And we'll just import that OBJ into the OBJ folder. We'll call it boots, boots.obj, very original name. Okay, and press save, and that's going to export the OBJ file, okay? And from this point on, we are not going to be using Poser much anymore, so we'll go ahead and close it down. And we'll load up Daz really quickly here and get Daz running. Apologies for my messy desktop. And we're going to export the nude Michael from Daz. Okay, you can see it's baking the textures here. It takes a few minutes, so bear with me while that is occurring. I'm going to show you how to export Michael as we're waiting for that. So the only difference really with exporting from Daz, there's a few different export settings. You do have to apply a T-pose to your character as well, okay? So let's go ahead and go into our smart content, we'll go figures and just find Michael. All right, load him in. There's Mr. Michael. Now you need to find the file. The easiest way to find the T-pose file is actually to go into character creator, and what you want to do is you can right click in the content manager over here on the right, just right click and select find file, and that'll take you to basically the root template folder for all of the iClone / character creator content. Now mine's in an unconventional place, okay, and I'll show you where that is right now. Generally, you'll have it in like the C drive under like documents, users, whatever. That'll be the file path. But my C drive is a small solid state C drive, so I want to save as much space as I can for applications. I try and put as much as I can on my larger drive, terabyte drive here. So for mine, basically what you'll have is you'll have this content folder and you'll have a template folder. Okay, so basically it'll be like something like C:, users, documents / Reallusion content template, and then you'll have your iClone 7 template stuff and your character creator 3 template stuff. So what you want to do is click on character creator 3 template, and there's a folder called Daz resource. Okay, and in that folder there's also texture profiles, which we can talk about later if you want. We're going to be focusing on the T-pose right now. Okay, so in the T-pose you'll have all these DUF files for this various Daz characters. You can see G3, G8, Victoria, Michael, Hivewire, Genesis 2, and everything like that. Since we're worried about Michael, okay, we're going to be using the Michael 4 T-pose right here. So all you want to do is basically just click and drag that T-pose onto your character in Daz. You can see the export's already finished. Okay, so make sure this specific T-pose is applied to your character. Just click and drag it onto any part of your character, and boom, there you go. Okay, so let's go ahead and quickly export him. That's all we're going to do in Daz, really. So File and Export, and we're going to just export him as that same folder there. Okay, Webinar, Renderosity. We'll call him Michael. Good enough. Okay, and go ahead and save that. So for the export setting, we have a bunch of videos on Daz export on our Reallusion YouTube channel or the training page if you want, the Learning Center. By the way, if you're looking to check out the Learning Center, a lot of people don't know we have a good page for the Learning Center here. I'm just going to go to the main page here. Whoops. Reallusion.com. Where's the, oh, goodness sakes. Okay, no content star. Okay, so if you want to find the Learning Center for Character Creator 3, we can just go to the top here, go to 3D animation. There's a Character Creator section here, and that'll load up the Character Creator page. And there's a section up here for Learn and Support. You can go to Learn and select Tutorials. There's the manual, there's webinars, everything like that. Tutorials will be here. Okay, so there's a bunch of stuff you can, it's all categorized. I don't want to spend too much time just showing this off, but I'll copy and paste this into the chat window as well for you guys. Okay. There you go. And yeah, you can check that out on your own time. You probably recognize my voice from a lot of those tutorials. Okay. Anyways, back into Daz. Basically all the settings that you want are here. Okay. Merge clothing into, make sure you don't embed the textures. Okay. We're going to select FBX 2011 binary. So this one's a little different than the Poser one. Okay. And go ahead and accept. And you can see its fingers slowly moving and it'll export. Okay. And that's about all we need to do in Daz. Let's go ahead and close down Daz. And let's focus on the character that we just exported now. So here you go. We have this character. It's been remeshed. Okay. So the meshes are now in Character Creator 3 character format. All the materials, all the clothing, the items on the character have been skinned already to the character. Okay. Now some of them may have a little bit of an issue, like the mesh may be poking through a little bit, like you'll see on this little thigh protector here, whatever you want to call it. Okay, you can just click on it. And what you want to do is you want to go over here to your attributes, and there's a section called conform. Okay, you can edit the mesh and skin weights, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But first of all, you just want to select conform. Okay, and the easiest way to do this is generally, you can see the pokage through on the bottom there. Just select calculate collision, and that'll generally fix most of your issues. If it doesn't, there's a way we can edit the mesh later, and I'll show you that when we move our character into different positions. Okay, you can see that fairly good job, not too bad, and I think we're good to go. So what we'll do is we'll switch our character the hair on first as well, so you can see the hair. It looks invisible right now. So what we're going to do is go to our scene here, make sure we select the hair, and we need to go over here to materials for the hair and shift select all the items here in the material list. Okay, make sure you select all of them. And then down here, the opacity is set to 0. We can just set that opacity up to 100. Okay, and you can see there's that little skin head section that's like white there, kind of on the character's head. Let me zoom in a little bit so you can see it better. Okay, so that's like the skull cap, the hair cap right here. Generally what you can do is you can just change the opacity, turn the opacity off on that one, and your result should look, fine and dandy, just like this. Okay. And now we're going to go ahead and pose our character into a specific pose, and we'll take a look at the accessory, which is this little left shoulder armor here. If you recall, I saved that, or I imported that rather, as an accessory. You can see the accessory icon there on the left. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just going to pose my character first. Let's go to make sure our character is selected. Go up here to pose, and we'll just choose, we can choose any pose. There's this pack here that you can get from the content store for like supermodel poses. All right, and I'll show you that later too. Let's just do this one like stretching, for example. Okay. And you can see, whoops, like the skull kind of stays in like a weird position and kind of is going through her neck. So obviously we don't want that. If we do this like thinking pose like this, you can see, a fairly similar issue where the skull is off on the distance there. And that's because we've attached, this accessory is attached to the wrong bone. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to go back to our main folder, put our character in a T pose here, under the motion folder. Just use a general T pose. Okay, and make sure that we have that skull selected there. And we want to go down to the, closer to the bottom here. Whoops, we're going to go to attributes first. okay? And we want to go down here to attach, and you can see currently it's attached to the hip of our character. So obviously we don't want it attached to the hip of the character, so let's go to our ellipses over here and change this to the correct one, which should be the left shoulder, okay? So waist, facial bones, and down here, we have the left upper arm, all right? This is the one we want to attach it to. We'll just attach it to the left upper arm and go ahead and press okay. Okay, so now it's attached to the left upper arm and we can pose our character. I'm gonna go in here. These are Motion Plus poses, by the way. They contain body and facial animation. Let's go to that same model folder there, the female, and let's test it out one more time. Okay, so now we have thinking, and now you can see it's attached to our character there. We have this stretching one, and it's in the correct position, okay, on our character's upper arm. All right, good enough. So once we change our character into this pose, you may see a few other issues, like on the back here, for example, where we see the mesh is kind of poking through on the character's hip. Let's do an easier one first, a smaller one here, which is on the front. Okay, so you want to make sure that the meshes of all your clothing are not allowing the skin to break through and stuff like this. So what we're going to do is we're going to select the make sure we have the bodice, I guess, whatever it is called, selected, and we want to go to edit mesh. Okay, now there's a number of different ways you can edit mesh, and I don't want to go into too much detail about the edit mesh tool right now, but there's a vertex way, there's a face way, elements and sculpt. I'll show you the vertex and the sculpts really quickly here. You want to make sure you ignore the back faces, and I'm just going to go ahead and zoom in really quickly here and just select all this stuff. If you have a small area like this, what you can do is just select the different vertices. You can press the W hotkey for movement, and you can just kind of bring this out. Okay, just pop it out like that. Okay, you don't have to be too far, obviously. Something like this should be okay, and that should resolve the problem, okay? And then you can just go ahead and sculpt and maybe smooth it out a little bit. You can use this smooth tool, okay? And just smooth it out like this. If your mesh is too jagged, use the smooth tool and it should fix the issue, no problem. Probably want to increase the strength a little bit. Yeah, okay, just get all that smoothed out so there's no jagged bumpiness really. Okay, looks good. Okay, and you can see the butt here is kind of poking through. Now, an easy way to resolve something like this is to use the sculpt tool, and I like to use the pull. Okay, so the push and a pull. You can pull and push the mesh. I'm going to pull the mesh here. We're going to change our radius to something really big, okay, like this, and just kind of like pull it like this. Click it a few times, and generally this kind of fixes the issue. We need to bring the radius a little bit smaller for this section here. Okay, and that should resolve most of the issue, and it needs to be smoothed out a little bit on the top there. Let's take that radius down. Okay, we don't want it to be too bumpy, so just smooth that out. And that should be good. And then we also need to go ahead and this section here kind of, the butt kind of poke through the little armor thing on the back there, or whatever it is. So let's go ahead and select that. Make sure we select the right thing here. I guess it's part of the bodice. Okay, so in that case, we just go ahead and edit the mesh. And this one we can select elements here. Well, actually, you know what? For something like this, let's just use a sculpting again. And I'm just going to pull it out. This will work. There you go. All right. Make sure it's not covered up by the other part there, and then push it in this section here. So again, if you make some mistakes, sometimes the mesh editing can get a little bit tedious, but we're just going to go ahead and work with that. I'm not going to be too picky here. As long as you're familiar with the tools, that's really all that matters. Bring it up there. There we go. Okay, we're gonna work with that. All right, I just wanted to show you the tools there, and everything else is looking fine and dandy. Okay, so the last thing you want to do is import in that OBJ file that contains the boots. Okay, so let's go back to our let's pose our character in the T pose. Always recommended to put your character back in the T pose. Okay, you can click here as well under face and body on the top, and then just click on your default T pose right here. And we're going to throw in those boots now. Okay, so I'm going to go to create and cloth, hair, and accessory. Okay, so this is how you can import in separate OBJ files and skin them to your character. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and find that OBJ file, which is boots.obj right here. Okay, and that's going to import in right away. There you go. You can see the boots are still a little bit too big. Okay, so the 50,000 was maybe a little bit too big. But what we can do is we can hold the R key, or press the R key rather, and scale them down. Okay, just like this. All right, and get them in a fairly decent position. Okay, it doesn't have to be too specific, but we need to obviously have them covering the entire character. Okay, and you can also press the R key to scale and make it a little bit larger on particular axes like this. Okay. All right, so we don't want to make them too different from the originals, but something like that should be okay. We also need to go into our materials as well, and the boot materials. Did we export those? Okay, let's find it if we did. So we need to select all the materials there and click in the diffuse channel there, and we're going to go ahead and load in that boot texture there. Okay, we'll save it as import it as a link texture. That's going to apply the boot texture. So you have to get that texture from Renderosity, the Renderosity folder, by the way. And that'll apply the correct texture there to the boots, okay? And the bump as well. Bump map, and go ahead and press OK. And we're going to import it as a bump grayscale map, not a normal map. And link texture. When you select link texture, basically it just connects all the material textures together. So they're all using the same texture map. If you import it in as a link texture, as soon as you modify one of them, it's going to modify all the other ones as well. Okay, and there you go. Okay, so now the biggest issue that I can find with these boots is at the bottom, we kind of have the heels are a little bit, or the soles rather, are a little bit out of position, right? They're kind of tilted a little bit, maybe at a 10-degree angle or something like that. So what we're going to do first is we're going to modify the position of those, okay? Using the edit mesh tool again. And this time we're going to edit the mesh using elements, okay? So I'm going to edit mesh. When you import in your objects as OBJ, basically every mesh on the character will be saved as a separate element. Every mesh on the item rather, like the accessory or the clothing, will be saved as an element. So if you click element up here, you can see you notice that we can select the soles separately. Okay, so the soles, the left sole now is highlighted in red. Okay, so we can manipulate this sole individually. We can use the E hotkey to rotate it like this. Okay, it's just slightly, so it's a bit more flat, and then the W hotkey to move it back into position a little bit, closer to the character's feet, just like that. Okay, so now you can see the difference. It's looking a little better than the one on the right, our left there. Okay, and we'll do the same thing for this one. Just click it, E hotkey to rotate, like this. There we go. And W hotkey to move it, and just kind of place it right there. And we're good to go. Okay, and again, you can use the edit mesh tool to modify all this stuff as well. I'm going to leave a little bit poking through because we're going to use the conform tool, and I'll show you a different way to fix the mesh a little bit later on here. Okay, but for now we're good. So the next thing we need to do is we need to skin the weights, transfer skin weights to our character's body. Okay, if we don't do this, and we do something like, let's go for example into one of these poses right here. Say we do something like this, this begging pose. What's going to happen is that the boots are going to go down like that, and our character is going to be like this. So obviously we don't want the boots to do that. So let's go back into the T pose. And let's transfer them skin weights, all right? So with the boots selected, what you want to do is transfer the skin weights over here. And there is a special item for shoes. Okay, you can just go ahead and select that and apply that. And that'll take a minute or so just to transfer those skin weights. Or maybe like 30 seconds or so. And once you transfer the skin weights, then your boots will be kind of, fixed to your character's, your figure, okay? So now if we go ahead and do the same pose, let's do this elegant pose, for example, I don't know, just throw in a bunch of different poses. you can see there that now they're kind of fixed to our character's legs. Okay, maybe the distressed one or stuff like this. Okay, you can see that the mesh is still poking through, obviously, so we're going to have an issue with that. But let's go ahead and try something like this stretching pose here, just to keep things a bit easier. As long as you get your boots kind of fixed like this, you can see the soles bending and everything like that. So we have that all in good position. So what I want to do is use the conform tool here. Okay, so with the boot selected, there's the conform tool. And this is a good way to just kind of automatically conform your boots to the skin mesh, okay? This doesn't always work. It works fairly well in most cases, but if it doesn't, I'll show you another way you can fix it. And if you want to go into detail, of course, you can use the edit mesh tool as well to edit the mesh on particular areas. But generally, this should work. And if it doesn't, then there's always the kind of the cheating way I like to use to increase the size right here. Okay, so it looked like it worked fairly well. Make sure we have everything here. Looks okay to me. Okay, no pokage through. Okay, but if you do have continual pokage of the mesh, I don't know if that's a word, pokage, but I keep on saying it anyways. All right, if the mesh of your character's skin continues to poke through the accessory or the clothing, you can always increase the size here as well. Now I wanted to mention as well that MD McCallum actually, Renderosity released a bunch of tutorials by MD McCallum that deal with all this stuff as well. So on the Renderosity site, maybe someone from the Renderosity team can put that link in the chat window, since I don't have it up on my screen right now. But they did release some tutorials by MD McCallum, who's a longtime poser and icon user. Really good tutorials. Always a good teacher for the basics and more advanced stuff as well. I'd recommend checking those out. Anyways, okay, we got about 15 minutes left, so I'm going to just run through this part. Now, once your character is all set up, you can go ahead and you can, just render in Iray. Okay, so we have photorealistic rendering available with Iray in Character Creator 3. Okay, so if you go over here, there is a preview. We can preview the current position of our character. I'll just go ahead and click that just so we can preview it. The lighting is not going to be ideal, but we can go ahead and I'm going to show you a few renders that I did before. Let's go into that webinar folder here. Okay, so these are some test renders. So the first thing I wanted to mention here is right after we render this, I'm going to show you, we're going to import in Michael, and I'm going to apply some high-res textures to Michael. Now, the high-res textures can be found with this pack here. This is the Elite Characters pack. I highly recommend it. It includes a bunch of really good morphs, skin types, as well as eyes and teeth that are more, the eyes are more reflective when it comes to Iray rendering. Okay, so you can see all sorts of different styles of characters that you can create using this, and I'll show you some, briefly how to do that later on. I'll paste this in the chat window as well. Let's take a look. There we go. And I think we can just close down Chrome for now. Yep. Okay, so this is the high-res texture. You can see the high resolution on the head, like the wrinkles on the head and the pores and the specular highlights and everything. Take a look at what it looks like in 1024. So this is the exact same character, basically, taken from Daz, the Michael 4, and rendered in 1024 textures. So obviously quite a significant difference. And if you really want to get the best results, I highly recommend using 4K textures, especially when you're rendering with Iray. So we have stuff like this as well. This is a fairly nice photorealistic render that I did. This took like a minute maybe, okay, on a laptop with a 1070 GTX NVIDIA. So some fairly good renders you can get as a result. Different lighting scenarios. And this is probably what we're going to end up with at the end. Okay, so this character right here. So let's go ahead and quickly do that. All right. So here's the the Iray preview compared to the can't seem to click and drag it over. Oh, did I just okay, what's going on here? Let me move. All right, so there you go. The obviously much more ideal result in Iray, and you can tweak and modify that a lot. And we'll talk about that in the next scenario here. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to import in the Michael character. Let's close down this Iray render for now. We're just going to go import in the Michael character using the same transformer tool. Okay, so right here. And this time we're going to choose basic. Okay, so when you choose basic, what it's going to do is it's going to replace the source textures. We'll just choose Michael 4 right here. Okay, so currently this only works for Michael 4 and Victoria 4, okay? And press OK. And we don't need to save the previous one. Although I do recommend, saving as much as possible. You can see no textures are here. We don't need to bake anything. We'll just go ahead and press OK. What it's going to do is it's going to apply Character Creator standard skin material to Michael. So it doesn't really need to do anything. It doesn't need to bake all those textures and whatnot. It just applies the same character material to Michael. So you can see here a little bit of frecklage on the upper cheeks there. A nice high resolution material. Okay, and you'll see all the different materials in here. CC base body. Okay, so these are the standard skin names and textures for the Character Creator characters. Now, what I want to demo here is I want to demo the characters' skins, morphs, and clothing. All right, so I'm going to take care of the clothing first. So clothing, we have tons of options for clothing. I don't have time to go through all the clothing options that we do have, but I'm just going to go ahead and apply a couple of quick things to our character. I'm going to apply a punk leather jacket. This one comes embedded with Character Creator 3, so this is a free with Character Creator 3. A bunch of content is free with it, so make sure you can take a look at all the folders. But we'll go ahead and do that. And for pants, I'm going to again, we have professional outfits. We have all kinds of different stuff, and I can show you more about that later in the Q&A section. But I'm going to apply a Hivewire clothing content to from Dusk here. We have Dusk and Dawn clothing packs, and I'm going to go to Morphable here. And we can modify the morph on this one. I'm just going to apply these camouflage skinny jeans. Okay, we're going to make our character look like a punk or something like that. All right, so there you go. Conform to our character's body. And let's go ahead and throw on some boots as well. Okay, just a very simple outfit. I don't have time to mess around with this too much. One thing I do want to mention is that if you take a look at the boots, closely, you can see that the tongue of the boots is kind of popping out through the jeans, or through the whatever camel pants, whatever you want to call them. Now, in this example, maybe I want to kind of tuck those jeans into the boots. Different people have different styles. Okay, we'll go ahead and tuck those into the boots. So the way we do that is we need to go up to modify and cloth layer settings here. Okay, so we need to adjust the layers of the clothing. So now, in this current outfit list, anything that's at the top is going to appear above the meshes that are on the bottom here. So you can see right now, the jeans are they're supposed to show below the boots, okay, because they're below. Let's go ahead and run collision, or not, no, what we're going to do here is auto hide mesh, okay? So with the boot selected, we're going to auto hide mesh. And what that's going to do is that's going to automatically attempt to hide any of the mesh that's below the boots. That's supposed to be below the boots anyways. So that'll be any of the pant mesh that is below the boots right there. Okay, so that's one way you can fix it. Okay, now it may not be like super accurate, but that's one easy way to fix that kind of issue. You can run a collision and everything like that, but from far away you can't really tell. You can go into more detail and edit the mesh. Manually make certain faces appear and disappear and whatnot, but we don't have time for that. So let's just go ahead and work with this. All right, so we got our character all set up for a night out on the town in Punkville or something. But let's go ahead and take a look at how we can modify the character's morphs now. So a really cool feature with Character Creator 3 is you can modify the shape of your character. You can see when I move my mouse around the character, there's these yellow highlights. Now I can modify these. Just click and drag and modify certain elements of my character one by one, right? So we can, adjust his chest or, strengthen his thighs or whatnot. I don't know, do whatever you want, okay? But you can do that stuff individually. You can do the facial features as well. So if we wanted to make the nose larger, we could do that. We can make the lips thicker. Okay. Adjust the height of the eyebrows, okay, or the tilt of the eyebrows rather, and all sorts of stuff. Okay. Bring the ears out like this. And there's also, if we go to the morph tab up here, there's a bunch of preset morphs. Okay, now you can apply these morphs. I'm going to go to the full body here. There's a bunch of different preset morphs that you can have. So these are like full body morphs. So what this is going to do is it's going to modify the character's entire body. Let's do something like really stylized character, like this slacker character. Okay, you can see we can do that. So this is a very like stylized character, and you can mix the morphs as well. So you can mix this with a character 3 base, and modify it in different ways. Let's take that slacker slider off there, and do something a little bit further down, like maybe the these Travis, May, and Gloria Christie morphs. These are ones from that Elite Characters pack I showed you earlier. So if we change it to like Travis, you can see he bulks up a little bit. Okay, so these are just like different full body morphs. I like this heavy one. It's a fairly good sample. So you can make your character very heavy. And it's really cool how, all the clothing can just conform to your character's morph, to the character shape, regardless of how heavy or thin they are or something like that. And you can make your character really thin as well, just like this. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to just go ahead and, give them like an athletic type of body, okay? Something like maybe more like a bodybuilder. I want to use this fitness slider, okay? So this fitness slider will really kind of bulk him up and give him some more body tone, okay? And muscular, maybe a little bit. And thin. All right. So we'll just make him like a really toned guy, like a supermodel or something. You can see he's got like abs of steel right there. And what we're going to do as well is the next thing we can do is we can change our character's skin color as well. And I'm going to apply that 4K resolution skin onto my character. And we're going to throw some hair on there as well. So the skins can be found up here under skin. And under the CC3 RTL, this is where you'll find those high resolution skins, okay? From that Elite Characters pack that I showed you, okay? Going here to high resolution. And, there's all sorts of different ethnicities you can apply. I'm just going to go ahead and apply this Jamal one, okay? And we're going to totally change our character's appearance. And it's going to apply a nice 4K texture to our character. You can see right there. So it looks very nice. And we can also go to the eyes as well. So if we go to our base right here, and we go to eyes, we can throw in, those special RTL eyes as well. These ones are very good for rendering with Iray. And we can give him like, blue eyes. We can give him like, green eyes. Just kind of give him some nice hazel eyes. I like these Anya hazel eyes here. Okay, and again, these all come with the same packs. Okay, and then for hair, we can throw in some hair as well. So under the hair section, we have the Conforming Hair Volume 1 and 2 content packs that you can purchase in the content store. I believe the one I'm looking for is in Volume 1. There we go. Okay, so we have like a nice curly hair right here we'll apply to our character. And then we'll take a look at, modifying his facial morphs even further. So for the facial morphs, you can go here as well. So there's full head. If you want, specifically, modify the facial morphs of the face, you can go to like Jamal here, for example. This is a Jamal preset. Okay, so you can see that's his preset right there. I think it looks kind of like, a little bit too rough. You can try something like Gabriel's right here. Okay, so again, these are just different facial morph presets, but you can go ahead and modify individual elements separately as well, like I mentioned. So you just kind of like widen the nose, for example, and maybe let's strengthen the chin. We can just bring in the cheeks a little bit. Okay, I just want to make him a bit more model-like. All right, so I'm just going to strengthen those cheekbones, and we'll just kind of bring the eyebrows up a little bit like that. Okay, I think he's looking pretty darn handsome. All right, so once that's done, okay, so that's the skin materials, the hair, the clothing is all modified. Then you can just go ahead and throw him into like a pose. All right, so this time we're not going to use the female pose. We're going to use a male pose. Let's just do something like this. I don't know. What's a charming. All right, so let's use this charming pose. And I wanted to mention quickly before we end off the webinar and go to the Q&A section, we do have under here in the stage elements section, there's a number of different light studio settings. So if we go over here to the atmosphere section, there's a content pack you can purchase on the content store. It contains a bunch of different light studio settings for Iray. Highly recommended. It's really easy to just quickly apply them. They contain IBLs, lighting presets, and everything like that. So for example, one that I like to use is the cinematic one. For example, there's a, I don't know, this magenta one I think is a really nice one. I just like the purple reflection off this guy's skin. So you can see it applies a nice preset. And if we go over here to our visual tab, you can see that you can modify the HDR effect here. It's basically input a specific or a special IBL map with a specific strength. And there's the shadows over here. You can adjust the shadows and the effects and global illumination. Because we're going to be using Iray, we don't need to worry about most of this stuff. Iray has its own render settings over here. Okay, so let's go ahead and give this a quick preview. Let's try maybe something like this angle right here. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and give that a quick preview. And let's just browse through the Iray settings really quick. So over here, we have the lighting, okay? So you can see the lighting, there's only just a single spotlight in this particular scene. Okay, and it's kind of coming from his left, our right over there. You can adjust the intensity of the IBL in the Iray panel as well here. And materials, you have to select the material on your character. So for example, if we select the punk leather jacket, we can adjust the reflectivity of it. We can basically adjust all the different materials separately. But I'm just going to maybe render this for, let's say, 400 frames. And you can adjust, like, select the character. And here's all the stuff you can modify right there as well. I don't want to get into too much detail on Iray since we're kind of running out of time here, but I just want to show you the main features. The environment here is kind of cool because we have a bunch of different filters that we can apply on the tone mapper. I like to use this. So there's like, you can have the customized exposure, highlights, shadows. And when you modify these, they don't restart the render. So these are just filters. They don't restart the Iray render. So we can do stuff like, decrease the exposure, make it a little bit darker. And it's a little too dark. We increase it up a little bit like that. Okay, so that's kind of a little bit overexposed. I'm just kind of showing extreme examples here. Okay, you can make it more dark and mysterious. You can take out the saturation to make it seem more, film noir or moody or something like that. Like The Last of Us or whatnot. You can adjust the depth of the shadows. Okay, like this. Personally, I like to have hard shadows in all of my renders, stuff like this. I like it's like a dark, depressed person. I don't know. I like to have these kind of like very high contrast shadows and stuff myself. And the highlights, again, so just various settings here. And there's also the presets here as well. So if you go to templates, okay, let's make sure you take that exposure down. Just a little bug there that just automatically. So here we have a bunch of different templates you can apply. Okay, so different settings. That one looks a bit washed out, but they're all different tone mapper templates. You can select them from the thumbnails here, or you can select them from the drop-down list up here as well. Okay, so it really depends on what you want to do. You can throw those templates on and work from there. And yeah, maybe just want a regular template like this, and go from wherever you want. There's also the white point picker, but I think that's basically all the time that we have. Right on the dot at 3 p.m. over here on the Pacific Coast. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to show you guys a quick run through of importing your characters, Poser and Daz characters into the character creator environment, how to import the clothing separately, accessories separately, and whatnot. And as always, any questions, we have tons of tutorials online. You'll probably get sick of my voice after a while, all these tutorials I've done regarding this procedure recently. But yeah, feel free to ask any questions now in the Q&A section. Chuck, Denise, and Jennifer are also available to answer questions from the Renderosity community, or whoever wants to ask them questions. Make sure you specify who your question is for and put it in the Q&A section. And we'll just commence with the questions right now. So don't put the questions in the chat window, by the way. Make sure they're in the Q&A window. All right. All right, so let's go from here. First question from Frank. Sometimes when I add clothing to a character in iClone 3, I think you mean Character Creator 3, some of the mesh of the character disappears, and that missing mesh is visible. How do I reverse that so that no mesh is hidden at all? Okay, so a good question there from Frank. So he may have an issue, like I mentioned before, with the mesh disappearing or not showing up when you want it to. Let's just go ahead and save this render here real quick. Oops. Dude, render. Okay, good enough. Let me close it down. So Frank's question was like, how do you make mesh like reappear? So I kind of noticed, and you may have noticed as well, is that, like, certain parts, since this leather jacket is kind of a little bit wide, certain parts of the mesh like this will be disappearing, and you don't want them to disappear. So what you want to do in cases like this, I'm going to turn off the morph here. So if you want to get rid of all this yellow highlight stuff, it's kind of annoying sometimes, just click this morph gizmo, turn it off, okay? Now we no longer have that. Okay, so let's make sure our character's body is selected, and let's go to our Modify tab, and we're going to edit the mesh one more time here, okay? Also wanted to show you guys some animation really quick in iClone in just a moment here, but I'm gonna answer this question first. So if I select, like, all these faces here, rather, let's use the face mode here, and let's select all these faces on our character's body. What we wanna do is we wanna make them visible, okay? So visible here, we can hide or we can show them. All right, so if we show, it'll show all those meshes, okay? Pretty simple stuff. Hopefully that answers your question there, Frank. But what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna really quickly export this character into iClone because I want to show you guys the animation capability really quick and how to apply those animations to it. But while that's loading up, let's go ahead and answer another question from the Q&A. Why not? All right, where are we? Okay, so if that answered your question there, Frank Spies. If you need any further clarification, just let me know. Okay, so Ray Valentine asks, does character works with character presets for V4, V6, V7s? So basically right now, since we just started this, we only support for poser characters, we only support the V4 and the M4 characters. Okay, but if there's demand, we're always willing to just add in more compatibility. We've been working on this for a long time, and we have all the base characters taken care of. So throwing in more characters, if there's demand for it, if people want V6, V7s, definitely let us know. You can email me actually. Email me or at developer@reallusion.com or kai@reallusion.com. That's KAI at reallusion.com, and I can pass any feedback you guys have to the development team, and we can take a look at supporting new characters. So yeah, to answer your question, Ray, unfortunately right now it's only V4 and the characters that you saw in the T-pose folder there in Daz. So I think that was yeah. So Reallusion content templates. These characters here. So G3 female. The V characters, unfortunately right now it's only the Michael and Victoria 4. Okay, Hivewire T-pose we have as well. We support that. Okay, if you use that, right? But hopefully we can get more in the future. All right, get out of here. Okay, So done that question, done that question. Okay, so Joseph asks about, you want more information about getting the M4 and V4 character into Character Creator. So Joseph, if you have any more like specific questions, feel free to ask me in the Q&A section, or, just like I mentioned, email me. If you email me, I can give you a more comprehensive response, more detailed response. My email is kai@reallusion.com, kai@reallusion.com. All right, and I'm more than happy to answer anything right now. So you have the next question as well here. Okay, so what with topology, mesh topology? Okay, so I guess I'll explain a bit more about exactly what happens when you import the character in from Poser or the M4 V4 character into Character Creator. So what happens is it's going to modify the mesh of the character and the UVs and everything. It converts that automatically. And so the character you see on the screen is basically no longer really that much of a Michael. Okay, so if I tried to apply the original texture maps from Michael to this character, it wouldn't work. It would look weird because the UVs are totally changed. Okay, and the mesh is changed. So if you look at this character's mesh, let's just have our character here and go into wireframe mode. So this character is basically a customized mesh. Okay, now it's no longer the original mesh that we imported in, and the UVs are totally changed. So again, that's kind of the topology. It's retopologized, I guess you can say. And the UV maps and the texture maps are all converted to adapt to that. So hopefully that answers that question for you there, Joseph. I'm going to go back to the Q&A here. All right. Yeah, so the texture is redrawn into the base CQB texture. Yes, that's correct. All right. Okay, so Frank says, so I can put any Victoria 4 morph on V4 before exporting it and then importing it into FBX. Yes, as long as it's the same base character, it should be fine. The morphs will work as well. This is a question from Frank. Yeah, as long as it's the Victoria 4 base, that's the main thing that matters.
Yeah, I would contribute to that when you export it from Poser, you want to make sure you have the bake morphs checked on the FBX options. That way it includes that morph.
Yeah, good point. The bake morphs needs to be checked when exporting from Poser. I personally didn't know that, but that's good to know. Thanks, Chuck. Okay, so hopefully that answers.
FBX is a nightmare.
Yeah, sometimes it can be, yeah.
That might also apply for clothing that has like style morphs and flowy morphs and things like that too. Okay,
so make sure to bake the morphs, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thanks, guys. All right. I think that answers your question there, Frank. If not, just let me know. And that seems to be the questions that we have for now. If anybody has more questions. Oh, there was a question for Chuck, I guess. Did you answer that already from Penelope?
Which one was that?
She asks, will the morphs and our textures that we've applied to our character in Poser be imported into Character Creator 3?
Yes, I answered that.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty straightforward. The answer is yes for anyone.
Yeah.
Chuck and I were trying to figure out what the scaling factor would be. As near as we can figure, he puts probably somewhere around 25,000, and I might suggest trying 24,300 when you're exporting from Poser.
Okay, yeah. So the one I did was about 60,000, and that was too big.
Yeah.
That's for the object export.
Yeah, the object export. Yeah, I did another one. I did a different pair of shoes. I forget which one it was, like the pirate shoes or something like that. And that one was only that was a lot less though. So I was kind of confused.
Yeah, I can find an exact number. I've got it somewhere, but I'll have to do some digging.
Yeah,
Okay.
just for the universe size comparison, going into 3D Max or Maya, you scale up from Poser 250 times for Maya and Max.
Okay.
So
Gotcha.
whatever character creator's scale is relative to Maya and Max, I had to give you the real number.
Okay. I think it's generally 100 as far as I can remember. I haven't imported in from Max and Maya in a long time. I've mostly been dealing with Unreal Engine recently. The shoes that I tried to export before though were let's see. I just have to bring the character in first. They were like those kind of like pirate boots, I guess. I'm not sure. I'm just loading in first. Okay, so I'll answer a question from Brandon as we're moving along here. He says, "This is my first experience from Character Creator. If you already have Daz Studio or Poser, why would you buy Character Creator 3? I don't know. Why don't you guys take a stab at that one? In your experience, what do you think Character Creator 3 benefits Daz and Poser
Um,
users?
for me, Character Creator 3 has the functionality of a hub. You can take content for pretty much any character and mix and match them together in Character Creator. So if you've got an outfit for Dawn that you really wish Victoria could wear, she can.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think that's kind of what we're trying to do. Is we're kind of trying to bring everything together from all sorts of different communities, and try to bring it into the single hub, I guess, like you said. We're doing the same thing with motion capture as well. So like we're taking all the different motion capture devices and bringing them all together into our Motion Live plugin. That's
It gives
Yeah,
you go
was
ahead, Denise.
sorry. I was going to say the animation features in Character Creator and iClone and whatever look awesome. They're awesome.
Oh yeah, so I guess I should probably kind of demo that really quick here for you guys. If you want to bring, so iClone is the animation software in case any of you are not familiar with that. If I want to bring my character creator character into iClone, really there's a single click. All you got to do is go up here to export send character to iClone. And since I already have iClone loaded up, it'll just throw that character in iClone real quick. The shoes, by the way, I think I was exporting before were these Captain Ann boots. So I'm going to try and do the same thing. These ones, the scale is quite different. I'm just going to try and experiment with these real quick. These ones.
You can click select none to get rid of everything in one shot.
Yeah, that's what I did. Let's go ahead and cap and boots. Oh, I didn't scale them up.
You didn't scale it.
Crap. All right, let's give it one more shot.
That's why I don't do live demos.
Yeah, I always forget things. Right? Like, oh, what an idiot. All right, let's try like 20,000 maybe for this one.
That might be a little on the small side, but
all right, we'll give it a shot anyway and see if it pops in correctly here. Okay, so there's the character in iClone, by the way. Let's just try and bring that because I'm really curious. Because when I was messing around with things, okay, so that's 20,000.
it's closer.
Yeah, it seems to be okay. Yeah, a bit closer, maybe 25,000. Maybe you're right. All right, well, we'll figure out the exact number later on and get back to you guys there. Just kind of experimenting here. Okay, so when you get your character into iClone, let's go ahead and throw some really quick animation into the character. I don't have the mocap faceware installed on this computer, but we do have facial motion capture. The animation tab is up here, so there's a huge library of preset motions. You can just go into Motion Plus, for example. This one contains different body and facial animations. So this one right here, for example. All right, so that guy has the movie trailer voice, but I just wanted to kind of show off the facial morphs and the body movement. Okay, so you can see the character is fully functional. You can really quickly apply any body animation you want to the character, any facial animation. That's the real-time stuff. If I go to like Face Puppet, there's a Face Puppet tool. I'd love to show you the faceware, facial mocap animation, but maybe you wouldn't want to see my face right now. Just all decked out with glasses. And anyways, let's go ahead and I'll show you a couple of examples of this. So these are just different templates. Maybe I'll just give them a neutral expression first. All right, so you can see. All right, so just kind of extreme examples of, and you can just basically puppet all this with your mouse. That's the facial puppet tool, just different expressions and whatnot. And then the body animation, same thing. Okay, so like mixed moves, have our character go down to a kneel pose, whatever. Okay. All right, that's really all I wanted to show you for animation, just that, these characters are fully functional, facial and body animation, 60 facial morphs, okay, so very detailed facial morphs, and the body fully functional as well. And yeah, if you're into mocap, take a look at the mocap stuff on our Motion Live site. Let's go back to the questions here. We got a couple more. Okay, just one more from Frank here, I guess. Oh yeah, so Frank's more of a suggestion here. It says, if you want to do character animation, iClone 7 is the best tool, and Character Creator 3 is a character setup tool for iClone 7. Yeah, pretty good. That's actually a better summary than I had. Thanks for that, Frank. Yeah, iClone 7 is a super good animation tool, and we've been improving upon it for I guess over a decade now. It's been quite a while, but we started off as a smaller tool, and now we've increased functionality. So there's like stuff like the curve editor and motion capture, and now we have tons of studios and schools using it throughout the world. So it's been a fairly good success story. Yeah, and I think that seems to be all the questions that we have for now. Anything that you guys want to add, Denise, Chuck, or Jennifer?
I think I'm good.
Right on. We can end this up a little bit early.
I don't think we even touched on exporting, this into like Unity or Unreal or stuff. That's probably another webinar, but that's a very cool, point of all of this.
Yeah, so we've worked hard on being as compatible as possible for import. But in addition, we've also been working hard on getting our characters to export into game engines flawlessly. So we're going to be launching a couple of tutorials actually specifically for Unity in the next couple of weeks here. And those are going to be showing you, we actually have a script that we wrote for anyone who wants to import in Character Creator 3 characters into Unity. And that script basically just applies all the materials in the correct places. So all you really need to do is just click and drag your character into the Unity library, and you're pretty much good to go from there. So it's really quick. It's a really easy tutorial, actually, thanks to that. Thanks to our team developing that script. But yeah, we're trying to be as compatible as possible to become the most functional pipeline tool, for people. I had a quick mention from Joseph here. Yeah, how to convert the figure into the game engine. So yeah, so like I mentioned, we're with Unreal. I'm more experienced with Unreal Engine. It's fairly simple process. The only thing that can get monotonous is the materials, applying all the materials and changing the material settings. But as far as the character rigs go, you can import them, and all the morphs are able to import in as well. There's multiple game studios that I deal with on a daily basis, nearly, that have all sorts of questions about this process, and they found it to be very very functional and save them a lot of time. But yeah, maybe that's a webinar for another day. We'll try and get a Unreal or Unity export webinar set up for you guys here in the next little while. Seems to be a lot of interest in that. So yeah, I think we'll try and do that. Any requests for webinars in the future as well, make sure you let us know. Okay. Okay, we'll send out a survey via email, and if you guys have any comments or suggestions, we're more than happy to take those on. All right, so I think we're good to go. All right, anyone else have any last thoughts?
I just wanted to let everybody know that I posted the link to the tutorials on Renderosity, and we might want to post a link here before everybody leaves to the forums as well. That we have some people, and your team is in there answering questions for anybody who wants to purchase the software.
Right on. Okay, awesome. Yeah, thanks to all the panelists, the Reallusion panelists who have been working behind the scenes as well, answering those questions in the chat window. Yeah, so I think we'll just go ahead and sign it off there. Make sure you check out the Renderosity forums as well as the Reallusion forums and those MD McCallum tutorials. Very useful, very simple and straightforward. So I'd really recommend checking those out to if you want to review at a later date. And Jennifer just posted the forums there. And I think we will just go ahead from there. Character Creator 3, again, make sure you check out the Character Creator 3 site. There's lots of different resources on there. Lots of different content packs, photorealistic characters that we've been bringing in. And yeah, some more links that everyone's posting on the chat window there as well. All right, and the partnership link from Reallusion and Renderosity also just posted in the chat window, so make sure you check that out. But yeah, from that point, I think I'm just going to go ahead and sign off, everyone. We're going to send out these links later, so there's no need to rush to the chat window there. But yeah, I just want to thank everyone for attending, and thank you, Denise, Chuck, and Jennifer for coming along for the ride. It's really good to co-host the webinar with you guys. And hopefully see you again in the future.
Yep, great job. We enjoyed it.
All right, thanks a lot. And everyone have a good and safe, was it Wednesday? Wednesday evening, right? Yeah, Wednesday. There we go.
Depends on what side of the globe you're on.
Yeah, I'm in America, but my brain's elsewhere sometimes. All
Thank
right.
you very much, Kai. It was wonderful.
Awesome.
Yes,
Thanks a lot, guys.
great job.
All right.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.